one of the issues that women, and female chimps for that matter, struggle with terribly is the lengthy period of dependency that highly intelligent primate infants are characterized by. And so a female chimp will carry her infant 500 miles in the first 3 years. She has to carry the infant. They can cling too, but she has to carry the infant everywhere. It's an unbelievable burden. It's an unbelievable burden. And so, and it's partly because it's worse even in humans, because human infants are born even less able than chimpanzee infants. And there's a reason for that.
It's like a noodle.
Yeah,
with a heavy head.
They're like a fetus. They're actually fetal in a very real sense. So the human cortex is so large that there's an arms race between the size of the infant's head and the width of the pelvic opening through which birth must take place. And it's a very difficult balance to optimize. If women's hips were any wider, which would make the pelvic hole larger, they couldn't run well. So it would interfere with the running, which obviously isn't so good if you're running away from a predator. If it was smaller, then the baby would have to be born with a smaller brain or more immature. The gestation period for a mammal of our size should be, if you compared us to other animals, be 2 years.
Yeah.
So our infants are born a year and 3 months premature. And so they're just absolutely 100% helpless. And so then there's an ethos that has to govern your interaction with the infant, let's say up till about 9 months, when they start to become somewhat ambulatory. So preambulatory infant is a different creature than an infant who has the capacity to move around in the world. By the way, the fear circuitry in an infant doesn't really kick in until they're ambulatory. So they're quite different from a motivational perspective too before they can move. Well, why be afraid if you can't move? Fear freezes you. If you can't move, you don't need fear because you can't move.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's also when they first show the signs of stranger aversion and some beginning fear of the dark.
Although they do freak out if they're little and you put them in somebody else's arms.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's fear. Often that's pain, a pain-like response, or anger. It's commonly anger.
It does look like anger.
Well, if they turn red, it's like when you watch someone who cries in an argument. It's like, I'm hurt. It's like, no, you're red. You're mad. You just say you're hurt because that's a guilt weapon that angry people use.
That doesn't happen all the time.
No, it doesn't.
I think that women also get blamed for that sometimes when it doesn't happen. It's like, especially by men, because they don't understand it, which is, why are you crying and are you trying to manipulate me?
Yeah.
And what I learned about was women's tears actually, the smell of women's tears give off a pain response in men. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
There's a chemical in women's tears that give off a pain response in men.
See, that's just how manipulative you are.
It is not.
That's
it's not.
very
Sometimes
sneaky.
I think
I'll show you. Here's some pain.
I think sometimes I know this, I don't cry very easily, but if I'm stressed already and then I get into an argument, sometimes it'll happen. I have to be pretty stressed. And I know some people who will cry a lot easier. They'll just cry
you mean like
right
me?
away.
A lot of that had to do with being ill.
Yeah, a lot of that did have to do with it. And I cry easier when I'm ill too. So that's understandable. But I think women get blamed a lot of the time, and I don't think it's always manipulative.
No, I don't think it's I don't think it's always manipulative either. Not like
it might be a evolutionary response too, to when things get to a certain point and you're getting some danger vibes as a woman. Danger vibes, that's what I'm going to call them.
Yeah.
Danger vibes, that you're more likely to cry, so that it's like, don't hurt me kind of thing.
Yes, it's an appeal to, that's right, it's an appeal to the latent maternal instinct within whoever you might be interacting with. But also that crying is also, it's a signal that
Something's
the situation has gone beyond your control.
Yeah.
Well, that's what children do. They cry. Well, why? Because the cry attracts attention. A child's cry, we had a cat at one point when I was a college student, and my roommate used to bring his little niece over now and then, and if she cried, the cat, who was a female cat, would immediately come running over and investigating. So that cry is a mammalian constant, and it means something, it means something like there may be a predator in the environment.
Sounds like an alarm, especially when they're really little.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. So back to the female ethos. Well, I think women's temperaments are optimized, at least in part, for the mother-dependent infant dyad. And the reason I think that is because boys and girls don't seem to be different in trait neuroticism. And they're
little boys and girls.
Right, before puberty. The difference kicks in at puberty. And so then women are more sensitive to negative emotion, and they stay that way permanently. And it's quite a difference, half a standard deviation, which is quite a large difference. It's enough so that if you drew two random people from the population, one man and one woman, and you had to guess who experienced more negative emotion on average, if you guessed the woman, you'd be right 60% of the time. So it's not a huge difference, but it's not nothing. And it does kick in at puberty. And so then the question would be, well, why at puberty? And some answers are, well, males and females become dimorphic at puberty. The boys get bigger and stronger, especially in terms of upper body strength, so they can start to win physical combat
Not in 2022, though.
Well, but generally, it doesn't take much of a size advantage to prevail in a physical fight. And so that means physical fighting starts to become more dangerous for women when they hit puberty, especially in relationship to men. But then they also become sexually vulnerable, which is a huge risk. And so why wouldn't you be more threat sensitive because of that? And then also, well, who says it's about you? Why isn't it about you and your infant? And so imagine your nervous system is tuned for the average level of danger you face if you have a dependent infant. And that kind of sucks for you because you're more nervous and sensitive to pain and grief and all of that and frustration than would be optimal for you as an adult. But, it's not all about you.